Oh my God, Kim Kardashian just Snapchatted our candy.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast, presented by Hippo Direct. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur or innovator every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Branstetter, digital marketing dude at Hippo Direct, and you can reach me at max@hippodirect.com for help using your podcast as a marketing tool. This is episode number 94 score and 7 years ago, and today's guest is Sarah Hannington. Sarah is the founder of MyCustomCandy, the amazing custom candy company, not that you would have guessed, who has clients ranging from Google and Microsoft to Kim Kardashian, Cardi B, and the Rolling Stones. She details her candy journey from the very start all the way to attracting such big-name A-list clients, and also shares what it takes to provide such a personalized, customized solution that can also be made at such large scale. Get ready for something sweet. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with the Candy Woman, the creator of MyCustomCandy, Sarah Hannington. Sarah, thanks for joining. How you doing today?
Good. I'm good. I've never been called the candy woman, but I'll take it.
Well, now you have, so all your dreams are true. How does it feel?
Okay. It's amazing.
Just as you'd always dreamt and yearned for. Well, this is really exciting. So I think you have one of the coolest businesses out there. And we are going to get into everything with the MyCustomCandy story and how you created it and everything in that world. But before we get into that, I want to get a little bit into your background. So when you think about it from a broad perspective, or when you were starting out, did you have any sort of affinity to candy in the first place?
No, actually, I don't have any affinity to candy at all. I'm super I don't eat sugar and I don't let my kids eat sugar, and I'm like an organic food Nazi. So I actually have zero affinity for candy, but it was more like marketing is kind of what got me into it.
Every person reaches that point in their life where it's marketing or candy, and so we know which way you went. But
Yes, I did.
that's really interesting. So you have your candy company, but you're not a sugar freak yourself, and you're actually more on the opposite side of things.
Yeah, and I think that kind of ruins it, but I'm not very into candy personally. I'll definitely taste the candies as we get new samples and new kinds, but I'm not super into candy personally.
It's all right. We won't hold it against you as I chomp
Okay.
on some candy here. But before you got into this candy world, what were you doing? What sort of space were you in professionally before you started going into this?
Marketing. So I've been in marketing now for 16 years, and I started MyCustomCandy about 5 years ago. So I was already working in marketing, and that is kind of how it came about.
Okay, so you have the marketing background there. What specific type of marketing? Because marketing could mean anything these days.
Yeah, marketing, mostly business to business marketing is my background. So getting businesses to want to buy something.
And is that something that you've always been interested in, the more B2B side of things?
I actually went to school for finance, so not specifically. I kind of fell into it and then just learned it over time and gained an interest for it.
So finance to marketing to candy, the natural progression there.
Exactly.
What is it that actually pulled you the finance direction in the first place, which obviously didn't last too long?
Yeah, finance was basically I went to junior college for 2 years, and then we were told we had to pick a major, and I knew I was interested in business, and finance sounded pretty good. I thought I would want to be a stockbroker, and then finish college, and then I realized, I was like, wait, I thought by the time I graduated, I would feel like a grown up and I would want to wear like a suit to work and be a stockbroker. but I don't feel like a grown up yet, so I don't want to do that. So then I fell into marketing instead.
So it came out of you not wanting to wear a suit, is I think what you're saying.
Exactly. That, and it was also an interesting combination because I felt like when I was in my finance classes in college, all my finance professors were basically saying like about the stock market, like, yeah, you'll either make money or you won't. And I didn't feel like I learned enough exacts, like it wasn't as much of a science as I feel like marketing is.
Right. And then you get into the marketing world and you learn that nobody in marketing makes money. No, I'm just kidding. But that's kind of your first pivot there was from the finance world to the marketing world.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest lessons you've taken from the marketing world that have been super helpful for you as you've launched your own business?
I guess the main like real marketing lesson that I learned was I was launching a new product just when I was in the marketing business, not in the candy business. And I had done probably maybe 20 different touches to the audience I was trying to promote this new product to. So I had a big list of customers and I had sent them mail pieces. I had sent them several emails. I had had people call them, all these touches to teach them about this product. And then we had an event where our clients came and we said like show of hands who knows what this product is, and out of 100 people maybe 3 raised their hand. So and I went, are you kidding me? Like, I've sent you so many things, how do you not know what this is? So that's what made me realize, like, with marketing, it's basically you can't communicate the same message enough too many times. So you have a market that you're trying to go after and you are literally just hitting them with that same message over and over and over again. And I originally would have the idea, well, I have to say something a little bit different because it's kind of like if you were talking face to face with someone, you wouldn't just keep repeating the same line over and over again. But with marketing, you really have to do that way beyond what feels naturally comfortable.
That is an awesome point because
Yeah.
I've experienced that so much too because I think it's just being like a nice person in general, and you're obviously
Yeah.
the meanest person I've ever spoken to, but just as being like a generous and nice person in general, I think there's a tendency to be like, oh, you know what, as a marketer, we don't want to bombard people with the message over and over again because we feel like then we're just going to come off as spammy or taking over their lives or just annoying from the consumer's perspective. But
Yeah.
from their perspective, they're seeing messages and branding and videos and text and all sorts of different things on social media literally almost every second of the day. And so they're seeing
Right.
this from so many different sources that likely if you're sending something out just a few times, there's no way they're even going to recall that at all.
Exactly.
So really going that extra mile can be such a big difference there.
You're trying to be polite, you want to be polite and not slap them in the face 50 times with the same message, but they didn't even see it the first 49 times. So you're good.
Right. Exactly. So basically don't be polite is what we're saying here.
With marketing now.
Let's get to MyCustomCandy,
Yeah.
which is a really, really cool business candy monster that you've created. Pretty sweet,
Yeah.
if I must say so myself. And
Yes,
sugar
it
and
is.
all the puns there. So where did this idea come about in the first place?
So the idea came about originally because in my marketing role, we wanted to send our clients something for Valentine's Day. And we had a meeting and we're discussing what would be a creative thing to send to our clients for Valentine's Day. And my copywriter at the time came up with the idea, oh, I wonder if you can print your own messages on those little candy hearts and we could print something about our products, or we could do like a little social media caption contest or something like that. And we all loved the idea. But then when I went online to find it, it didn't exist. So that was the beginning.
So was there like music in the background and you started levitating when that moment happened? Like, oh my God.
Well, the only thing I could find was people in forums asking if anyone knows where you could get it. So I was like, "Ooh, other people are looking for this." I think at that point it was probably 5 weeks until Valentine's Day or something, and I went, "Everybody's looking for this and nobody can find it." And I had no idea. I don't know how to print on candy. I didn't know what to do. So I decided, well, let me try one more thing. Let me message on Facebook a manufacturer of candy hearts and just ask them if they know of anywhere I could get them custom printed. So I messaged them on Facebook and they messaged me back and they said, yeah, we actually have a website and you can do exactly that. Here's the link. And I went to the link and there it was. You could design candy hearts. And so I messaged them back and I said, hey, I just happened to be in marketing. So I have to tell you this. Your site doesn't exist on Google. Like you can't find it. And I can tell you really easily like what keywords to add to your site so that Google will see it. But literally they cannot find your site anywhere. I realized later, so they never responded to that. And I realized later that I was talking to the marketing person. So it was kind of, when you're in a career and someone's like, oh, you're completely failing. You don't want to, I didn't even mean to communicate it that way, but the person was basically like, I'm not responding to someone telling me I'm not doing my job correctly.
Oh, I get that all the time.
Yeah. So they never responded. And then I was like itching, like, oh my gosh, people are searching for this and it exists, but no one can find it. So what I did to begin with was I threw together a really terrible website and I marked up their pricing and I optimized it so it would rank on Google. And I figured, all right, well, let me just see if people place orders and then I'll just order them through this company. So that's how it began.
Wow. That is one of the most clear examples I've ever heard of there actually being demand for something out in the market before it's even launched.
Yeah.
So you 100% deserve the credit for actually taking action, and you went above and beyond and actually reach out to people that might be doing this to see, hey, what's the deal? Like you took that extra step. So that was clearly key for you.
Yeah.
You mentioned your copywriter actually had the idea in the first place. Was there like a fight or any debate before you launched this of saying who's the stakeholders in this and who actually is going to run this business?
No, I mean, it was not that person's idea to find the company or to start a company or anything. So I don't think there's
Right.
much debate about it. I mean, I realize now it's funny because I've always been like, I've literally been the person that types business ideas into my phone since I don't know how long I can 20 years or something. So I realized after this example, and obviously fast forward a few years, like things totally changed with that business and it became a much more legit business. But I realized, okay, here I am, like I've typed 100 ideas, and you might go, damn it, like those people launched that company. That was my idea. And I realized an idea, if you said I was allowed to cuss, so I'm going to cuss.
Yes.
I realized an idea isn't worth shit. Like literally, an idea is worth nothing if you don't implement it. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly
one
right.
thing. Yeah. So that's one thing I realized with the candy company. That was the first time I actually had the guts to actually implement, like, I guess the confidence to actually think maybe I do know enough that this is a good idea. I feel like a lot of times people have ideas and then they just second guess it and then they never implement it. And so they don't deserve any credit for the idea. So I've realized if I go back in my phone, there's probably 100 business ideas in there that I never implemented that someone else eventually did. And I definitely don't deserve credit for it.
True. Yeah. Well, they might. Yeah, they might completely change their business from the notes app in your phone from that one line you had for them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've gone maybe 5 years ago, "Oh, you should be able to lease a car online." Like, I don't wanna go to the dealer. I see a car I like, and I just wanna go online, and I just want a fair lease price, and I want someone to deliver it to me. And I've probably been saying that for 5, maybe 10 years, and it exists now, but it's not like I didn't I didn't figure out how to do that. So I don't think I deserve any credit for that one.
That's spot on. Right. You need the idea in the first place, but the idea only gets you so far, and it's really not very far if you don't take any other steps.
Yeah.
So you're clearly someone who keeps an open mind to ideas and thinks of ways to solve problems. So you have that natural entrepreneur mentality there. When you think about the early days of My Custom Candy, what were the biggest things that took you from this being just an idea and you kind of locking down a website at the start to actually producing these giant batches of custom candy for brands and individuals?
Sure. So basically, what happened is we meaning me only to begin with, was taking for a couple years, I was just accepting orders and then I was placing them through this other site. And then we started getting actual legit inquiries. Like we had Victoria's Secret, big banks, like big companies, and everything was timed for Valentine's Day. So we would get, I mean, I remember specifically it was Victoria's Secret. They wanted a very big order, and we contacted the manufacturer who we were still using at that point, and we said, we need this much candy and we need it in a couple weeks. It's a huge order. It's for Victoria's Secret. And they just went, yeah, no, like like we have enough orders. We have, there's no, it was basically a giant company. And I'm talking to a worker who gets paid whatever per hour and has no incentive. They don't care that there's a big order
Right.
and that it's going to be profitable and
And
that.
obviously they don't like Victoria's Secret.
I guess not. So they just basically said no, and we had to turn away the order. I can't remember what the dollar amount was at that point. Maybe it was probably $5,000 or something. We just had to say, sorry, like keep your money, even though that would have been a great order. It's a big name brand, everything. At the end of that season is when we went, okay, at that point, my friend Shannon was helping me with the business as well. And we went, okay, if we're going to do this, if we're actually going to continue this business, we need to figure out how to bring production in house, because at this point, we're actually turning money away. And we're also just praying when we place an order that the manufacturer is going to deliver it to us in time, because it was negative customer service. Like there was no, it was almost like they were annoyed we were ordering so much from them
Oh my God.
versus, yeah. So that season ended, and we've become a little bit less seasonal over the years, but it is very seasonal. So when the season ends, we basically have until the next season to figure something out. At that point, I realized I had about 8 months to figure out how to, one, get someone to make blank candy hearts for me, and two, figure out how to print them myself. So that was a pivotal moment. And I mean, I did end up figuring it out in time, but
I was really curious about seasonality, actually.
yeah,
So you mentioned it's becoming less seasonal. Obviously, Valentine's Day, since you guys do so much stuff with candy hearts, is a huge time for you.
yeah.
What other parts of the year do you see bumps and increased interest in your offerings?
Yeah, so I mean, there's some other holidays, that people do candy for, just your main holidays. Where we've gone now is that we do just a lot of candy for businesses, and it's just whenever, trade shows or parties or anything. And it's not specifically candy hearts. So that's just year round, except when there's COVID-19.
Of
It's not a
course.
big business when they canceled all events, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm thinking it's crazy how many businesses are suffering during this time from that perspective, but hopefully better soon.
yeah. And then we have a consumer side as well, where people are just ordering for whatever, their grandma's birthday or things like that.
Of course. Shout out to all
Yeah,
the grandma's birthdays out there.
exactly.
Did you start out with just candy hearts or did you have some other shapes just even from the beginning?
No, it was candy hearts only for probably 3 years.
And what do you have now? It's that the mints.
Yeah, we have the mints, and then we also have basically that will do branded either cubes or bags, and we have hundreds of different types of candies that we'll use.
That's really cool. And if you check out
Yeah.
your website, if you check out your Instagram, you can see all the really cool things that you guys have created. Seems like there's really, you can get so custom and you can get so personal there. Can you share some insight on what it's like creating a product that is so custom and so personal for every single one of your clients? What are kind of the pros and cons of that?
Well, definitely we've kind of taken the angle of more of like you're using candy as marketing. So we do have people come to us. I mean, we had like a nightclub in Vegas, and they said we're doing a party and it's kind of underwater theme. So we ended up doing like these big gummy sharks and bags, and then the branding matches the bag. So it's more fun for us than just, not having the creative end. The pros of that is that it keeps us stimulated, and it's also way better for marketing. We have cooler visuals and things like that. The con is that you have to inventory so many different types of candy, or you have to get them custom ordered really quickly. And I mean, probably one of the biggest challenges with our business is that everyone needs whatever it is very quickly. And if we're relying on any sort of other vendors, that can become extremely challenging. I mean, we had one year we were doing, it was a Candy Hearts one, and it was for J. Crew, and they're just ordering a few weeks before they need it, and they just decided it was some, I can't remember the quantity, but it was something like they needed 40,000 bags because it was going to every single one of their stores. So they decided they wanted all pink, and we didn't have enough pink. So that sort of a thing sounds like a simple thing, but then the company who manufactures the candy ended up shipping it. It got stuck in a snowstorm. It's just like the whole thing, and the stress of those sorts of things, like me finding out where the truck is in a snowstorm. Can we send someone up there to get it? Because you're talking like this is like pallets and pallets of candy.
Oh my God.
So
It's Candyland, literally.
yeah, it is. The tight time frames and people wanting very specific things is extremely stressful, but then it's also why people use us. They
Right.
they have high expectations for sure.
And it's literally in your name with the custom aspect.
Exactly, exactly.
You're probably, I mean, so many people love candy, but you probably get the most stressed out about candy specifically of anybody out
That's
there.
true. I mean, my
But that's
husband,
your job.
yes, my husband and I officially don't celebrate Valentine's Day anymore. It's a joke in the family. It's like, it's finally Valentine's Day. Oh my gosh. Thank God we can breathe again.
Right.
But yes, candy has been stressful at times. I mean, we did one job for Kim Kardashian, and it was like basically she had a chef who was turning them into these like breakable chocolate heart boxes, and we made a mistake, and the candy was matching. She actually came out with perfumes that were like shaped like a candy heart and said a word, so we made a mistake, and we printed one of her phrases on the wrong color, so it didn't match the perfume bottle. So in that case, they called us from LA at probably 11 p.m, and they said like, this is a mistake, and the chef is supposed to fly out tomorrow morning to New York to put together all the New York ones that were basically, she was mailing them, hand delivering them to celebrities to promote her perfume. Basically we had to open the factory at midnight, print all night, put someone on a plane with the candy to deliver it to LA so that the chef could then fly out and get the chocolate things made that had the candy hearts in them so that they could be hand delivered to all these celebrities who would then post on social media about her perfume. So
Oh my
little
God.
things, it's like, it seems like okay, that's like a minor mistake. We printed on the wrong color. And it's like the domino effect can be stressful.
Yeah. Well, it's not, I mean, when you're working with someone like Kim, it's not like, anybody would hear about that. She doesn't really know many people, publicly. So it's not a
Yeah,
big concern or
exactly. No
anything.
big
Yeah.
deal. I mean, I remember calling FedEx and I was like, I need these on a plane tomorrow. And I'm like, it's for Kim Kardashian. It's a whole thing. And he was like, okay. And the guy on the phone was like, girl, okay, we're getting Kim her candy. I got you. And I was like, all
Stop the world.
right.
Stop all the shipments of everything else out there. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that's an amazing story. Well, it's incredible that you made the decision to produce at midnight and through the night for that. And obviously is now something that you can celebrate as a brand. And it seems from, what she posted about it and the publicity around it seems that Kim was really happy with everything.
Yeah.
On that note, you mentioned Kim Kardashian. You've also mentioned all the, well, not all the, but a snippet of the amazing giant brands that you work with. And
Yeah.
just to mention a couple other big names there, I know you've done stuff for Cardi B as well as the Rolling Stones. So your client list is like the biggest of the biggest names out there,
Yeah.
which is just amazing. It's really mind blowing. How did you start working with these biggest of the biggest celebrities and brands in the first place?
That's a good question. We basically, the very first, I mean, at the beginning, we did have interest just because it was a creative product. We had like your Victoria's Secret and things like that. Originally, we had an inquiry from someone and we didn't know who it was. And they said, we need this tomorrow. We need it overnighted and we need these specific phrases. And my best friend Shannon, who was helping me at the business at the time, she was the one talking to them. And so she took the order and it was all these like raunchy phrases. And we went, okay, whatever, just don't even look at it. Just get it out. This person's a weirdo. Like, just print it and get it out of the shop because this is like disturbing. So we overnighted it. And then the next day, we have one of the kids, not a kid, but a teenager that's working in the shop goes, oh my God, Kim Kardashian just Snapchatted our candy.
What?
And so that was her order. And it was like all these like raunchy things. And she just had ordered it to give it to her friends and she Snapchatted it. So we kind of fell into that, but then from a marketing standpoint, basically every time we've had something legit like that, we've then published it on social media, on our website, and just marketed it. So we've kind of then built it up so that then it becomes that more legit brands and things can see that you've worked with companies like that, and then they know that you can handle it.
Well, that's some incredible word of mouth there.
Yeah.
And you guys took advantage of it and made the most of it by posting it out on there. And I know you have plenty of stuff and examples on your stuff is very formal. You have plenty of examples on your website that help from an SEO standpoint.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for somebody who is working with or wishes to work with more high profile clients like that? And it doesn't even need to be like, your Kim Kardashians, your Cardi B's. If
Yeah.
it's just somebody who has a bit of a more public influence, do you have any
Yeah.
pieces of advice to share on that?
Yeah, I mean, when we started, I started our Instagram and I started messaging smaller influencers. So people who maybe had 50,000 followers or something, and offered to just create candy for them for free if they would post it. And that definitely helped because then you start building up like they're a level of legitimacy and you can post that they have it. And then it kind of builds from there. So I think you could proactively, I mean, it's definitely easier when you have a custom product versus if you had, say, like you already designed like a clothing brand or something and the
Right.
person may or may not like it. But still, I mean, even with a clothing brand, it's like there's influencers I follow on social media who have maybe 1 million followers and they're constantly getting stuff sent to them for free. And it's just like with any other marketing, if you do it consistently and you do it to enough influencers, then you're going to get people posting it. And I'm sure a decent percent of them won't or won't wear it or it'll get thrown away. But if you do it as a consistent marketing action, people will start posting. And I think you can kind of build a snowball effect there and repost what they post and put it on your website. And I mean, I definitely built the visuals that MyCustomCandy, like that you're saying, you look at it and it looks legit. Like we could have not published that and it wouldn't have had that perception.
Totally. Yeah. And what you're speaking to is a real perk or upside of putting in the extra work to have that custom solution, that personalized solution there. So
Right.
it's well worth it when you start to get the clients like that.
For sure. And it's fun. It makes it a lot more fun. It's like exciting for everyone in the shop when it's like, oh, we're doing an order and this is for the Rolling Stones. Like, that makes it a little more exciting.
I can imagine that might add a little vigor and excitement to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Imagine you started your own podcast. You're growing your brand, sharing your expertise, maybe even your terrible puns, and meeting fascinating people. That is awesome. Now, imagine all the hours you've lost every week due to the podcast's demands. Not so awesome. I am your podcast producer. Email me at max@hippodirect.com. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's get to a segment on inspiration and creativity. So, for starters, what do you do to stay creative? Because you're somebody who is such a creative person and you've created such a creative company. And I'm just going to see how many times I can use the word create.
What I have to do personally, because I will go into lulls where I'll kind of, not be creating new things with the business. I have to kind of force myself to either listen to podcasts or I listen to audiobooks,
Mm-hmm.
business or marketing related. And I try to do at least like 2 business books a month or consistently listen to podcasts that give me business inspiration. And that just listening to those consistently for a few days and I just start going. Like I just start getting ideas. I start emailing myself and writing notes. And I think you just have to do that at all times. Like every month you have to be listening to something new or reading some book. And then I also, because I'm in marketing and because I've been doing this, any marketing that I like, I save in a folder. So if I get any email, whether it's a consumer brand or something completely unrelated to my industry, I save it. And then when I'm looking for ideas, I can usually translate some way what they did into my business.
So, similar to what you're doing with writing down your business ideas and that you've been doing for years, you do that with the marketing side as well.
Yeah.
So, with everything you were just saying, it's all kind of input, taking things in from the outside and the environment around you. And somehow that through some magical formula internally, we don't know how it works, but that can turn into some really, really amazing creative output. Why do you
Yeah.
think it's so helpful for you to take in stuff that's more in the business or marketing space as opposed to kind of keeping your mind fresh with stuff that's completely different?
I mean, I am more of a business and an analytical type person than I am I'm not an artist by any means. Like I can't draw, I can't design, I
We'll
can't,
give it to you.
you know.
You're an artist. Come on.
No, I hire a design, like I analytically hire a designer who has pretty looking things. So I'm definitely not an artistic person, I don't think. I can see things that I think look pretty, but I'm more analytical. And so if I see something I like or some sort of marketing that gets my attention, then I figure out how to translate that to my own business. And the majority of the ideas that I've gotten for my business in terms of how I want my emails to look, how I want my website to look, how I want my social to look, all of that, I've seen someone else who's doing something similar, usually in a completely different industry, and then I figure out how I want to mimic that. Like if I see someone who's got a PR article that I thought was really cool, then I try to break it down in terms of how I think they got that article, and I try to figure out doing it for myself. So most of my ideas don't appear out of thin air. Usually they're inspired by something I saw.
Yeah, and that totally makes sense. And one of my favorite analogies about that is if you look at the music industry, especially rap songs, I mean, they sample so many songs that are classic songs and sometimes from the, even going back to the 40s and 50s and can
True,
turn that into their new stuff. So music industry and in the EDM, the DJ world as well is constantly sampling other stuff and vocals. So you can definitely, and you are taking that same approach to the business and marketing world.
for sure.
And you mentioned podcasts and audiobooks. You don't have to share the entire list on your phone, but can you share some of your all-time favorites from the podcast perspective and the audiobook perspective?
Yeah, let's see. I'm opening my Audible now. I mean, I do really like the How I Built This podcast. That one's like
Oh
just
yeah, of course.
stories. Yeah, stories of entrepreneurs. And that kind of gets me like, because those are also like very, I'm not going to say exaggerated, but that's like your top level, like major success stories.
Right, like the biggest companies, yeah, the biggest startup
Yeah.
stories out there.
Yeah. Like you have probably like 1/100% of that being you. However, it's so, like the results are so huge that it really, and you hear their story of how they started, that it really, I take lessons from that and I learn it. Like I remember they did one on the girl who started Spanx, and she was saying like she had
Oh
gotten in.
yeah, Sarah Blakely.
Yeah, Sarah Blakely. Yeah, which is so random because I was just looking at a house in Bel Air, Florida, and they were like, Sarah Blakely's parents lived in this house. And I was
Oh
like,
no way.
what? Yeah, I guess they're from Bel Air.
Oh my god. Can you just do a quick favor and go and become like best friends with them and be like, "Oh, Sarah should really do Max's podcast."
Yeah,
I've been
I know.
I've been
It's
trying to
true.
get her on for so long. She's amazing.
I know. And she was talking about just how she had gotten into Nordstrom and how the product wasn't really selling, and how she just walked into the store and made her own displays and just put them in the shoe area because she thought they would sell better there than in the underwear section. And she was like talking about how she didn't even have authority. Like she didn't work at Nordstrom. She just walked in and pretended like she had the authority and did it, and no one stopped her. And that sort of stuff, I'm like, okay, that, it's just those little lessons where you go like, okay, the person hustled and they totally deserve that success. So those things really fire me up.
Yeah.
In terms of books, let's see. Right now I'm reading The Lean Startup, but I haven't gotten too deep into that.
You're staying lean with it.
Yeah, we'll see. I've done like 10 minutes. Measure What Matters is a really good book. It's more geared towards bigger companies and things like that, but it's still really good. Never Split the Difference, I just listened to. That's like a negotiation book, which I don't really negotiate, or I'm not in sales specifically, but I still thought it was really good.
Those are some great examples there. And since you mentioned on the podcast note how I built this, I actually was fortunate enough to meet Guy Raz at Podcast Movement in
Yeah.
2019. And he was just the night. I mean, first of all, he's a lot taller than I knew. So he kind of towers over
Okay.
everybody.
Is
But he's
he? I did.
but he's a gentle giant. Like was the nicest, most down to earth guy ever. I mean, he gave basically the closing keynote, and he took the time to talk to every single person and was so nice and gave me some podcasting advice, and which is now framed on my wall. No, but he did.
That's awesome.
But he at the time was launching a new podcast that was a children's podcast, and he was a host of. And so there were all these parents there that wanted him to take pictures and show their pictures with him to their kids. And he was like, no, 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 no. So he took the phone from them and he filmed a video of himself and said, "Hey buddy, this is Guy." And like all just like a really nice personal message. And
Oh,
for those kids, I'm sure it like made their childhood.
I'm sure.
That's the
That's
kind of person he is.
amazing. That's awesome. I've never met him or anything, but he does a really great interview. Like it grabs your attention for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. He does. And when you meet him after you're talking to Sarah's parents, when you meet him, you could, if you don't mind, recommend him be on this podcast as well. Thank you.
Okay, you might run into these people before me, but we'll see.
I don't know. I think these are your neighbors. So
Oh my gosh. I also one more book. I really do like the 4 Hour Work Week, even though I feel like it's kind
Oh
of just
yeah.
like a typical, like, yeah, whatever. Maybe it's a little exaggerated in terms of only working 4 hours, but that mindset is totally my mindset. Like, I'm super not in agreement with like, you have to work 40 hours or 60 hours or whatever. I'm all about just being efficient. And so I liked that one as well.
Yeah, Tim is an absolute legend.
Yeah.
He's like my idol. Actually, that's my favorite, well, second favorite podcast of all time. I'll say it.
I haven't even listened to his
Oh my
podcast, but we
god,
just read the book.
you are
Maybe
in
we'll
for, yeah. If you
okay.
like How I Built This and
Yeah.
so some of it is entrepreneurial, but some of it is just really fascinating and some of the most intelligent people you hear from, but he does such a good job with it. I think he's like got like 500 million downloads by now.
Oh
It's
my
incredible.
gosh.
Yeah, but
That's awesome.
he's a ritual for me. Okay, so let's get to a fan favorite segment called the Wild Business Shout Out of the Week. The Wild Business Shout Out of the Week.
Okay.
I know, very, very thrilling. So, Wild Business Shout Out of the Week. This is where we talk about a campaign or brand that caught our attention. And at the time of this recording, you know, you mentioned COVID, everything with the pandemic going on. And we've had some previous guests talk about companies in a wide range of industries that are making masks who weren't beforehand. But you had an example of a woman who started really early and got some really good publicity for it and has a cool story of her own. You mind sharing that one?
Yeah, so that was the company's called Headley and Bennett, and they make custom aprons for restaurants and chefs. Her name is Ellen Bennett, and she's just a good marketer, mostly like in terms of social media. And before every company that has a sewing machine in the world decided to start making masks, she was kind of brainstorming and figuring that out. So this was probably started this like when we were a week or like it was just hitting the US.
Oh, wow.
So like things were just kind of starting, and she's in California, so they were kind of on top of shutting down early. But so she started making masks, and she basically, so she did a few things that I thought were done really well. One, she partnered with a doctor, so kind of a well known, I think he's kind of well known doctor. So they worked together to come up with the mask. So that gave the mask a lot more credibility in terms of it being actually effective. And then she did like a buy one, get one, kind of like your, you know, Tom's shoes and things like that, where she basically, you would buy when they were $22, which isn't cheap for a cloth mask. But they were pretty, like it had her little logo on it and they were cute. And you would get one for yourself, and then they would automatically donate one. And just the way she kind of carried out the whole campaign on social media, like she showed, they went to the LA farmers market, they handed them out to anyone who wasn't masked that was working there. Like she's really just a cheerleader because she's selling to the restaurant industry. I'm not saying it like she's not authentically supporting them, but from a marketing standpoint, it's just a brilliant like backup of LA farmers and the restaurants and giving masks to people who are still feeding, just things like that. It was just a really well done execution of it. And then she started sharing she was getting legit PR, like on the news in LA and things like that. So I feel like
Oh,
she
wow.
just executed it flawlessly. So I liked that.
Yeah, it seems like it. She absolutely nailed it and was so quick to act. And so there were a couple different aspects there that you mentioned that worked super well for her. One was partnering with the doctor, so she had that kind of medical support and endorsement right away
Yeah.
and knew how to go about things the right way. And then two was the donation piece. And, you know, there's never been a better time for giving. And so she totally went all in on that as well. How did
Yeah.
you hear about this in the first place?
Well, I follow her on Instagram. So I saw, and she
Oh, there you go.
also, yeah, in terms of what we were talking about, like that you can't overly market something. It's just, I mean, you're talking like she's posting like 30 Instagram stories a day about
Oh my
like
God.
her mask. We're in the factory. We got the fabric, and then sharing people wearing the mask. I'm at, like she communicates a lot when it comes to marketing. So it makes sense why she gets pickup from the media and things like that.
Well, she's getting her brand out there. That is for sure.
For sure.
Let's get to a segment called The Unusual. So,
Okay.
pet peeves, quirks, and weird talents. And I can tell from the sound of your voice that you're super excited for this one. No, I'm just kidding.
Hmm.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh man, I don't know. Mm,
This
mm.
segment, maybe.
I guess no. I think one of my pet peeves is that I don't like when things have to be like quote unquote fair, like in terms of, like everyone has to work the same amount of hours or everyone has to be. I just remember, like, I remember being in college and I was doing the same job as my roommate. And it was like, okay, we both got paid whatever, some shit. And I was able to do that particular job a lot faster. So it was like a quantitative job. It was finding something online and filling in a spreadsheet. So that's something, like, in terms of, I have in my years also been an employee. And in terms of being an employee, like, just the thing of like, well, everyone like has to be here for 40 hours. So you do too. And what that sort of stuff, that's a pet peeve for me. And that's kind of one of probably the main driving reasons for me to become an entrepreneur and have my own business, was because, like, in the real world, that's total bullshit. And like, if you are more efficient and you're smarter and you can do something better than someone, then you do get rewarded for that. So
Yeah.
I guess that's a pet peeve of mine, of like, everyone gets the same.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
How about quirks? So, aside from knowing more about the candy world than Willy Wonka, what would you say is something that maybe your husband or your kids or somebody calls you out on that's a little bit quirky about your personality?
Hmm. I mean, I don't know if it's a quirk. I'm very frugal, but I don't know that that's a very entertaining quirk.
That's a positive trait. Quirks are
Yeah, but
positive,
I
though.
mean, I'm literally like, I'm taking my kids, like, I'm trying to teach them about money, and like, they're only going to the dollar store to buy their toys. Like, it's not like we can't afford to buy real toys.
Hey, it's a magical place.
Yeah, I know. I mean, my husband will tell you that, I guess it goes along with my frugalness, that when I'm leaving a room that he's still in, I'll turn off the lights. He'll tell you that one is a quirk he doesn't agree with. Like, I'll be like, I'm still in this room. Like, stop trying to save power and turn off the lights. I'm still in this room just because you're walking out of the room. But yeah, so I don't
Whoops.
know. Yeah,
Leaving your husband in the dark since day one. That's very nice. No.
exactly.
How about weird talents? So, in addition to turning off the light early, what would you say is something that you're really talented at that really doesn't have an effect on your business? It could be, like a memory trick or something around the house or a hobby, but it's just something you're really good at.
I mean, I'm really into yoga, so I'm flexible, and that doesn't really help me in my business. But
Well, maybe. Depends on the factory.
yeah, I don't know. I don't usually have to reach for things. I feel like most of my talents do tie into my business. Like, I'm extremely overly organized, and
To what extent of organization?
I want everything to be extremely organized. So even if it comes down to like my kids' toys, I'll be like organizing them by type in baskets, and I won't be, like, I'm not relaxed in my house until everything's organized. So I'm definitely exaggeratedly organized. I want everything to be organized. I mean, I'm
I
like
like that.
organizing my
Exaggeratedly organized.
fridge. Yeah, my fridge has to be organized, everything.
When your kids are like halfway through Legos and taking a break, do you go in and finish the Legos?
I don't finish them, but I might put them away.
Oh God. All right, start over, kids. Oh my
Oh
God.
man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like they'll be like, "Where's my toy?" And I'll be like, "It may or may not have gotten donated." So, yeah.
All right. So let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A. You ready for it?
I'll try.
That's all we can do.
Okay.
All right, let's get wild. So, what is your favorite candy of all time? You have to pick one. I know you're not eating
Okay.
candy all the time, but
I would probably go with watermelon, like Sour Patch watermelons. Those are good.
ooh, that's good. That's a good specific answer.
Yeah.
And then how about cookies? So this is a question. Shout out to my uncle Cliff Zucker, who's a big fan, a big listener, and he eats more cookies than anyone who has ever touched their feet on planet Earth. So, what is your favorite cookie of all time?
Well, I'm gluten free, so it has to be gluten free. Well, it depends. If you're buying it in a store, I would say the Tate's gluten free chocolate chips. Those are really good. And that's another, I don't remember what podcast they were on, but they have a good story too.
Oh, and probably how I built this.
Maybe. Yeah. Those are really good. They're crunchy chocolate chip cookies. And then in terms of making them myself, I would probably make like an almond flour chocolate chip cookie. So I guess I'm double time chocolate chip.
Yeah, double, quadruple, even. What is the sweetest gift that you have ever received from someone or given to someone other than candy?
I guess my husband like going shopping for me and picking out clothes he thought I would wear, which I think is pretty, like most husbands can't pull that off. So picking out clothes that he thought I would like, even though my frugalness, I ended up returning some of them, but it was very sweet because he's at the store and he's like, "Oh, this is a fashionable workout outfit for her. I'll get her this." So,
Oh, well, that's nice.
yeah.
And then last one, what is the most random class you took in, it could be college or high school?
For some reason, I had to take a hospitality class. I don't know why it was required. Maybe I just picked it because it was easy. And we had to wine taste. So I'm
Oh,
not sure how much that
that's a nice perk.
yeah, we had to spit it out because we weren't 21.
Oh, never
But
mind.
it wasn't a huge perk. But I'm not really exactly sure how that tied into my finance major, but I got credit for it. So I'll take
Well,
it.
if you're going into being a wine tasting financier, a sommelier
I
financier, just
guess.
to
I
put as
guess.
many fancy words together as possible. Well, that's a good one. And you are very hospitable. It's gotten to the point that you now shut off the light when your husband's still in the room. So it's clearly paid off for you.
Exactly.
Well, Sarah, this has been amazing, super sweet. And thank you so much for sharing your My Custom Candy story and all your other business lessons and thoughts on creativity. Where is the best place for people to connect with you? And if they're interested in ordering some of your awesome My Custom Candy?
Our website is mycustomcandy.com. And then the only social media channel we're really active on is Instagram. So that's just at mycustomcandy.
Perfect. And then last thing here, final thoughts. It could be a quote, it could be just a little tidbit lesson that you want to share, a single line, whatever you want. Send us off here. The stage is yours.
I guess my final thought, like if anyone is interested in having their own business, would be for me, the hardest part was getting past like my kind of the doubt of whether or not it was a good idea. And I think the only way that you can do that is to just implement all your ideas, and you have to fail many times. Like before I did this business, I definitely tried other businesses that failed. And I think it's a numbers game, and you just keep actually doing and failing, and you learn why that was a bad idea and just keep implementing, and eventually something will catch hold. And the only reason it does is because of all the failures and what you learned from them before that.
Ah, failure never fails. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing your journey and your My Custom Candy story. And thank you, wild listeners, for tuning into another episode. If you want to hear more wild stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite app and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You can also check us out on Good Pods, where you can find all the podcasts your friends and family are listening to. In addition, dive into our marketing and business growth resources at hippodirect.com/blog and hippodirect.com/newsletter. That newsletter is the Hippo Digest, and it's your place for wild marketing ideas every single week. And of course, certainly not least, come say hey on your favorite social media channels at the handles Hippo Direct and Max Branstetter. Until next time, let your business run wild.
Bring on the bongos!